question, how did it feel when Futurama got picked back up?
It actually felt great. It was a complicated thing eventually. I mean, we were all very excited to be back. Although the thing was, it wasn't the, really incredible moment that it might have been had we not done the 4 movies right before that. Because the thing was, even though we were canceled and off the air for a very long period of time, what's 6 years, 7 years, something like that, we did the movies, the straight-to-DVD movies, after about 4 of those years, or 3 or 4 years, we didn't do the show at all, but then we did those. So everybody sort of felt like we were kind of back in the group. Coming back for the movies was really more of the resurrection for us. That was when we came back to the characters. That's when, as some person on the internet pointed out, the voice of Hermes changed. I was like, well, he's an elder now. People grow and change over time. And some of us don't go back and listen to the old episodes. But it's basically the same thing. Yes. Department.
Limbo.
My language!
I was going to ask, what was your experience like doing improv? And as you did improv, where did you get your inspiration from? And did you ever get nervous as you were doing it?
I started out, yes, you get nervous doing improv, because you never know what's going to happen. When you're working with people that you're familiar with, it's less so. I started out doing improv in college. There was a buddy of mine who was from Chicago who had studied at Second City and Improv Olympic, and he came and basically, it was very weird, he described something called the Herald to us, which is an improvisational form that goes up 20 minutes on a single suggestion. And so we said, okay, let's try that based on your description. And then we formed a group and we started performing around the school, and we traveled to Chicago to study at Second City and with Del Close, the person who had invented this improv form. And that was just pretty mind-expanding. Are we getting feedback? My experience of it was, improv was almost a religion. It was a pretty simple one, like all the good ones. The basic principle was yes and. Whatever someone gives you, accept it and add to it. And at 19, that was like a light on. It's like, oh my God, this is a life philosophy. You say yes to everything and add something to it. And actually, as a life philosophy, it works pretty well. Because you can't fight things in life. Things happen. Things are what they are. Accept them. And if you want them to be different, add something different to them. And so, it was my life and the basic workings of my brain for several years. And it made me kind of a schmuck at times. Especially when I got the whole honesty kicks, like it's all about being truthful and honest. That's why I'm going to tell you this thing that's going to hurt your feelings. But I grew out of that. But I continued to do improv and continue to do improv. Less out of ego or audience, but just really for my own. It makes me feel good, and it's freeing. It's for some people it's exercise. It gets the endorphins going. For me, it's improv, and I think I will hopefully always come back to that as a touchstone.
Which one? One, like, gentlemen,
Yes, you at the weekend. Yes. Yes. I'm almost up. Ooh, yes. Do I remember them? That's the question. The only one I can think of now that I regret not getting was Aqualad in Young Justice. Because I thought I did a very good job, but I was fortunate enough to be cast to play Aquaman in the same. And then it's funny because that episode I came in and they were playing people's references for the auditions that they had, so they could remind them of what the voices they were. And Kari Payton, who got the part of Aqualad, they played his audition, and I was like, oh yeah, that was much better than what I did. Okay, which actually is usually the case in voiceover. Most of the time, if I audition for something, even something I really want, and I found out somebody else gets it, 99% of the time what they did was better than what I did. And I go, all right, fine. It should be better than just be me. Zach.
I listened to your interview with Rob Paulson on Talking Tunes, and it was the story where Sam Jackson just stares you down in the scene. Has anyone scared you as much as that on the set ever?
Well, I'm trying to think. It was a story I told in a podcast. On the set of Pulp Fiction, there's this scene in the apartment where Sam Jackson has the gun on Brett, where Jules has the gun on Brett, and at one point, Marvin has a line, he says, "Where's the briefcase?" And Marvin starts to say, "It's over there." And he turns and says, "I don't remember asking you a damn thing." And in rehearsal, Samuel L. Jackson said that line to me, looked over to me, said that line, and then went back looking to Frank Whaley. When we were rolling, he changed it. And he said, it's like, "I don't remember asking you a damn thing." And he stayed looking at me. And then he did his next line to Brett, and he was still looking at me. And, at first I was, in the scene, I was acting and everything, and then I'm like, why is Sam looking at me? And he looked really mad. Did I do something wrong? And that feeling when somebody's looking at you with real anger, and you're like, and the real fear you feel? That's what I was feeling. Like, and he was just incredible in that scene. It was, again, another lesson I learned, because here was a man who was playing a hitman, not going around like this and I'm gonna kill you. He was playing a hitman. Not that different, in behavior from himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, Jules didn't act wildly different from the way Samuel L. Jackson acts. But we'd be in between scenes and he'd be drinking a coffee and talking about golf or his daughter's school or something, and say, "All right, Sam, we're ready to go." "All right." And then all of a sudden, the person you were talking to a couple of minutes ago ceased to exist. And you looked at this person and you were looking into someone else's eyes. Honestly, I don't know how he did it, but he became a different person in the space of seconds, without any no BS at all. And it really, it's set a very high watermark for me, because it's funny because at the same time, Frank Whaley was telling stories of working on The Doors and how Val Kilmer sent out a memo that everyone should refer to him as Jim or Mr. Morrison, and nobody look at him on the set. And young actors go through a lot of nonsense to try to stay in character or create feeling. And here was this guy going from golfing father to cold-blooded assassin like that. I'm like, okay.